Coach Sanders. You can go ahead and take us live here. I don't know if she can hear me or not, but um, so say Todah to everybody for joining us on tonight in this Torah study. We welcome you. This is another day for us, another day to prepare ourselves for the return of the Messiah and the gathering of his people. We're not a part of the season that is upon us. We're not participating in that. I'm speak for myself. Speak for myself. I am not participating in it at all. I know what it represents, and it doesn't represent what they say it represents. And so they should probably call it Thanksgiving instead of Thanksgiving, because that's the platform, the premise that it was designed on, built on, and came into fruition and became a national holiday. It wasn't because they were just so in love with the people of the land when they came over here. It wasn't that they so loved and wanted to have a union with them and let's share the fall feast and everything. They came over here with their religion, and then they just started to slaughter all the people. And so we want to thank him on tonight for what he has given us, as knowledge and information and education that he gives us, and then the spiritual guidance to direct our paths. His word, his Torah, is a lamp unto my feet, right, and a light unto the path. And his commandment, his law, is light, which means it gives us understanding. It gives us direction. It gives us purpose of life. It gives us counsel, and it gives us might just to know what the Most High Yah is saying, especially in this day, because we're in a day now where a lot of people don't even want to hear the Most High Yah. A lot of people are really running away from his word. They don't want to hear the word of Yahuwah. They rather want to hear comforting interpretations. Comforting, somebody's at the back door. They want to hear comforting interpretations of his book, and not the actual meaning of the word. And that it's going to be devastating because a lot of people are going to miss out on it. And when we were reading, and we might even go there again in the 4th chapter of Hebrews, but when we were reading about this, we were reading about those who we're supposed to enter into his rest. We're supposed to enter into that time with him, where our Messiah is going to reign. He's going to set up his kingdom here on earth. He is going to rule for 1,000 years on this present earth, which would be the millennial reign. Is 1,000 years of peace. The 1,000 years of peace does not come until he gathers Yasharel from the four corners. He's going to gather Yasharel from the four corners, and he is going to establish his kingdom. Now, in the process of gathering his people, and before he sets up his kingdom, there's going to be a lapse of time, because we're going to go into that wilderness, and he's going to plead with us face to face. And so all of our life, what we're living now, what we're doing now, the direction of our life, the purpose of our life, the meaning of our life, all of that is going to come into play when he pleads with us face to face. Because that pleading is not, he's going to beg us. No, the pleading is when you have to give the final part of teshuvah. The final phase of teshuvah is because you have to give an account. You have to give a report. You're going to have to give an answer for your life. You know, what kind of answer are you going to give him when he pleads with you face to face, or when he judges you? What are you going to say about your life? And this is where a lot of people are going to fail. This is where the sorting is going to be, where he's going to begin to sort out those who will be worthy to go into the kingdom and reign with him for 1,000 years, and then those who won't make the kingdom. And so what we're doing today is we're trying to prepare people, trying to prepare you in your mind, prepare you in your spirit, in your ruach, prepare you in your body. We're trying to prepare you in all of that, is because that's what you have to give an account for. Like it says, we're going to go to Hebrews here, but I want to go to, real quick, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And First Thessalonians chapter 5, and I think it's verse, let's see, verse number 12. Oh, let's see. And I beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you and which are over you in Yahusha and admonish you. But he talks about down here, verse number 23. Even verse 22 would be a good one too. Abstain from all appearance of evil. But in verse number 23, and the very Eloah of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, Yahuwah, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Adonai, Yahusha Mashiach. And so you're going to have to give a teshuvah or give an answer for your ruach, your soul, and your body. All of that is going to have to be blameless. You're going to have to give any errors that you've made, any words that you misspoke, any lies that you told, all of that, you're going to have to present yourself before him, and you're going to have to give an account. And that's why, all of this plays in, because he tells us when Yahusha came, he told all of Yasharel, hey, all of Yasharel, now y'all got to be born again. You have to be born again. You cannot keep that same mentality, that same lifestyle, the same transgressions, disobedience unto the Most High Yah, the lack of faith, you don't believe. I mean, all of that has to be discarded. And so he gives us time and space. When he lays it out to us, he gives us time and space to, okay, now get to work. Now get to work. Now do it, because you're going to have to give an account. We all have to give an account for all the things we've done in this body. So in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse number 10, he says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of the Mashiach. This is where he's going to plead with you face to face, like it says in Ezekiel. And I'm sure you guys know where that's at, right? We'll read this, then we'll go there in Ezekiel. Yakazakal. His name is Yakazakal. We say Ezekiel because they taught us how to read this book. They changed the names, they changed the pronunciations and everything. And we say, okay. Nobody even does any digging or researching, but his name is Yakazakal. But we say Ezekiel, but we'll go there later. But right now, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of the Mashiach, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to he have done, whether it be good, whether it be bad. And that's why, when you look at everything in my body, I'm a trichotomy. I'm made up of spirit, soul, and body. What we see is your flesh. We see the body. We see the material. We see the flesh. Underneath that flesh, you have a ruach, a spirit. And underneath that flesh, you also have a soul. You have something registering down on the inside, registering life that is eternal. It is eternal. And I believe, and this is you don't have to, but just through my study and everything, he created souls, and the soul that you have is older than the physical body that you have. So actually you're a spiritual being having a material experience. We are our spirit and our soul. Even it says at the time of death, our spirit goes back to Abba Yah, doesn't die, because we think of death. And a shout out to the Fulton family, time of your loss, Roger Fulton, and prayers and condolences to the family in the time of your sorrow, and then also the Atwater family, Deacon James Atwater. He's gone on to glory right now, and he made that transition, and he made it in faith, in his ruach, and so his soul is sleep. It's resting. It's sleep. The ruach goes back to Abba Yah that gave it. The body goes back to the ground from which it came. So actually, we are a spiritual being, but we're having a material experience. We're having a natural experience, and the Most High Yah doesn't let you know what goes on before, and he doesn't let you know what's coming after until you get there. And that's just how Abba Yah does it. Why does he do it? That's how he does it. So when you see him, then you can ask him, why'd you do it like that? And I'm sure he'll come back to you with a question and see if you can answer his question. Then if you can answer his question, maybe he'll answer yours. Because that's what he did with Ezra. When you read through Ezra, Ezra was full of questions. Why did you do all this and that? Why? And then he says, okay, let me ask you. One of the things he asks Ezra, he says, what is the weight of fire? Can you weigh fire? And if you can weigh fire, what's the weight of it? And then he asked him, well, where does the wind come from? Do you know the origin? You know where it comes from? You know who? And so he was asking all these questions, and Ezra says, "Don't no man know the answer to them questions." So you might come to him with some, off the grind question, and he's going to just jump back at you with the question that you won't be able to answer. But we're going to have to give an account for ourselves and everything we've done in this body. Even every word that we speak is going to come back. He says every idle word will be brought back in judgment. So, and some of us like to lie. Just as long as you know that it's going to come back. Because some of us like to lie. We just lie. Our children lie. We try to tell them not to lie. And someone might say, well, yeah, but you lie. So, but just as long as you know that you have to give an account for that. If you think you could just keep doing that, I'm okay, I'm good with it. When I see him, I'm just going to tell him all that. Okay, you think you're good with that. Just as long as you know, like he gave the parable of the dragnet, he got all the fish, he put the dragnet down in the water, gathered all the fish, brought it to shore, began to sort it out. So I'm not taking. So when you go to Yakazakal, Ezekiel chapter 20, and chapter 20, it's all right here, but we can read it. And starting verse number 33, as I live, saith the sovereign Yahuwah, surely with a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, and fury poured out, will I rule over you, and I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you, what? Face to face. So in verse number 35, and you go to that verse 35, and you look at that word plead, which is H8199, and the root word is there, judge, judgment, but the context is V. So we're going to go down to V, and it's pretty much the root word, judge, to rule over cases or dispute or wrongdoing, to rule over cases of dispute or wrongdoing. So that's what he's going to do. He says, when I plead with you face to face, I'm going to rule over you according to, and I'm going to judge you according to all your doings, everything you've done. And that's why Yahushua says every idle word is going to be brought back in judgment. That's why Shaul says we all got an appointment. We got to appear before the judgment seat of the Mashiach. We have to give an account for it. So I say that because all of the teaching and everything that we teach should be preparing you for that meeting. It should prepare you for that meeting. He teaches us. When you come into the four walls, you are being taught. Come into the four walls. He teaches you. He teaches us how to, because we're going to go over, some things, maybe not tonight, but there's some things he teaches us. But once you're taught, what are you supposed to do? You go out of this place and you live it. Some people think the only time they saved is when they come up in the building. That is totally wrong. totally wrong. You know, some people, the only time they pray is when they come up here. That's totally wrong. Sometimes the only time they talk about it is when they come up in here. It's totally wrong. You come up in here to be taught how to live out there. That's why I come to learn of him. We're to take his yoke upon him. Is that what he said? Matthew chapter 11, 27, 28, 29. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest for your soul. You're going to find your rest in me. You're going to find your rest in the teaching. So when the teaching comes out and it teaches us, then we should find rest in that. If it riles your flesh, yea and amen, hopefully you'll change. Hopefully that'll cause a change in you instead of getting mad at the teacher. You want to shoot the messenger, and you're forgetting that you got an appointment. You get mad at the teacher, and you fail to realize you have an appointment, and your appointment is going to be on your lifestyle, on your conduct, on your behavior, on what you did and what you didn't do. Because a lot of times when we meet him and he's going to plead with us face to face and he's going to deal with us and we have to teshuva and give an account for our life, a lot of us is going to say, they made me do it. My kids, them some hard-head, nappy-head kids, roughneck, tattooed face, they made me do it. No. What did you do? Well, I cussed them out. Well, that's what you're going to get judged on. You're going to get judged on what you said and what you did. Because a lot of times then people will say, it's the spouse that you gave me. The spouse calls me to do that. To do what? What did you do? Well, I did this, that. That's on you. That's on you. Because see, we have the Adamic nature, and when Adam fell, the first person he pointed to was his Isha. He pointed straight towards his Isha. That woman you gave me. No accountability. No accountability at all. And that's the kind of nature we have. So when a lot of people get judged, they're going to blame the kids. They're going to blame their spouse. They're going to blame the school. They're going to blame the team. They're going to blame the grandparents. They're going to blame whoever they can blame, whoever's closest to them. It's your fault. You made me do it. That's what because they have the Adamic nature in them, you know. And then his Isha, she said, not me. Yeah, because she had the same thing in her that. Why? Why do you say she had the same thing? Because she was taken from him. She was bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. That's why he called her woman. And so she did the same thing he did. It's his. Don't look at me. It's his fault. You know, and that's how a lot of us are going to do. We're going to blame everybody else but ourselves. Everybody else but ourselves. But that's not going to fly. So what we try to do is we try to teach you and lead you and educate you and inform you so that you can make the right decisions. So when you have that appointment with him, you can say, yeah, I did do this and that, but I did this. And because didn't he say in Corinthians, the good and the bad? All of it. So I'm racking up some good things, stacking up some good things, because I know I did some bad things. I'm trying to eliminate the bad things, build up good things. You know, I want to have that character. I want to have that mindset. I want to have that heart. I want the ruach. And that's why Yahusha, when he came, he says, all y'all got to be born again. All y'all. I ain't leaving nobody out. Let's look at Yahuchanan chapter 1, and I think it's about verse 33. No, it's further down. Let's start with verse number 45. Yahuchanan 1:45. Philip findeth Nathanael and saith unto him, we have found him whom Moshe in the law and the prophets did write, Yahusha of Nazareth, the Ben Yosef. And Nathanael said unto him, can there be any good thing come out of Nazareth? Now, if you would have known Nazareth, Nazareth was like a Chirac, like the hood in Chicago. If somebody said, this is the Messiah, he came out of the hood in Chicago. Wait a minute, time out. Can anything good come out of the hood in Chicago? Can anything good come out of that? That's what he's saying. Because Nazareth was notorious for rudeness, filthiness, bloodshed, crime. I mean, it was just notorious for that, So they said, is there anything good come out of Nazareth? And Nathanael said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip said, come and see. Now, verse number 47. Yahusha saw Nathanael coming to him and said unto him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile. Now, that's what he said of Nathanael. But Yahusha immersed Nathanael. He immersed. So even though Nathanael was somebody in whom there was no guile, which was no filth, no evil, no wickedness, he was pure, but he had to be immersed. And Yahusha immersed him. And it is said, now I don't know, but it said they were all filled with the Ruach. So when he says, all y'all got to be born again, he didn't leave nobody out. Now, see, for us, we think, well, that ain't for me, or I'm already good. I'm already all this. If Nathanael, he says, in whom is no guile, and our Messiah did not lie. He never, it's even said of our Messiah, neither was any guile found in his mouth. So there was no evil, no deception, nothing that came out. So when he said, Nathanael, man, this is an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile, Nathanael must have been pure. But if you go to the I think it's the end of the second chapter, in the third chapter, maybe it's the end of the third chapter, it says he baptized all his disciples. So even Nathanael. So who is so pure today that can stand up and say, I don't need to be baptized? Who's so pure today? I mean, you do have them. You do have Israelites, sad to say, but you have Israelites that say, I don't need to be baptized. When Yahusha testified of this man, about how pure he was, and yet he baptized him. Yes. It could be pride, it could be arrogance. It could be arrogance. You have some people are arrogant. And you do have people who think Yahusha is beneath them, which is, because it's only through his life, the fact that he gave his life, that, Yasharel, the nation of Yasharel, has any hope. And then outside of Yasharel, any other Gentiles has any hope is because of his life, because of his death, So when somebody says they don't need that, then what they're saying is, well, his life, whether he lived or died, it really doesn't matter because I'm an Israelite. And it's sad, but you have people like that. But he's going to deal with them too, yes. Yeah, because they felt that if they were the seed of Abraham, they have a right to the kingdom. Hey, I'm a seed. I'm an Israelite. I got a right to the kingdom. The tribe I'm from, my filial, is that what it is? The father of my tribe, his name is on the gate in the city. Because you got Reubenites, you got Levites, you got Simeonites, you got Yahudaites, which they call the Yahudim. You got them. You got Issacharites. You got Ephraimites, Manassites, and had all these ites, so they could say, "Hey, my father's name is on that gate. I'm going through that gate." Not necessarily, because when he pleads with them face to face, you got to give an account. Well, I didn't believe. Wait a minute, what? You didn't believe? And that's what we're going to have to really deal with, because a lot of us don't believe. A lot of us don't. What do you mean? To believe in something, somebody can believe in something to the point where reality doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter because I believe in this. You know, I believe in something so firmly and so solid that even though reality or the Bible, you have, here's a good example, because Yahusha talked about the tares and the wheat, right? Tares, first one out, you know? And you have those who believe so firm in their belief that they're going to be taken out of here and go to heaven. I mean, they're firm in it. And then let's go through the book and let's read it for ourselves. And I want you to read here. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I believe that I'm leaving here. They even said November 23rd and 24th was going to be a process of him taking the people out of here. There's some people online that thought it was November 23rd, 24th. Then it was in September. I thought it was, wasn't it? Oh, no, it was October. It was right around Tabernacle time. You know, they said that was a time in October. That was a time of the rapture and all. And then it was November 23rd, 24th. This is the 26th now. They'll come up with another day. It might be December 19th. Ooh, what's happening on December 19th? That's when the three-eye atlas is closest to the earth, is on December 19th. And I haven't heard anybody, but it would not surprise me that somebody says December 19th will be the day he's going to rapture his church. They're going to be going up, and it won't surprise me if somebody says that. But you can show them in the Bible what is written, and they can read it for themselves, and they won't believe it. They won't believe it. I don't believe that. I believe, but the Bible doesn't affirm what you believe. It doesn't matter if the Bible affirms it or not. That's what I believe, and that's what I'm gonna live on. That's what I'm going to live by. You'd be surprised how many people are like that. So let's look at Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4, and we were down here a little further. Let's start on verse number 5. And in this place again, if they shall enter into my rest, seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached enter not in because of unbelief. This is where your belief, however firm and solid you are in your belief, this is where your belief must line up with Torah. It must line up with the scriptures, because if it doesn't, then you're not going to enter in. You won't enter in. Thousands, in fact, all of the children of Israel that came out of Egypt, and coming out of Egypt, that was the Exodus, and we're preparing ourselves for the second. Now, this second, I know the phraseology of the second Exodus is not in the Bible. I know it's not written in the Bible like that, but it does talk about in all the prophets the gathering of his people, and so when he gathers his people from the four corners, from one end of the Shamaim to the other, because Moses said that, Yahusha said it. From one end of the Shamaim to the other, from the four corners. When he does do that, and he gathers his people together, you can still miss the kingdom because you don't believe. And that's what happened with the children of Israel. He brought them out of Egypt, a nation, brought them all out. A mixed there was other nations that were involved, that were in that Exodus. There was other nations, because in Leviticus 24, you had the Israelite woman, and she had a son by an Egyptian. And so you had, and it says there was a mixed multitude that came out, and then Moses in the wilderness married an Ethiopian. He married an Ethiopian. So there was Ethiopians with them. There was Egyptians with them. There was Ethiopians with them. And they all came out because they came out a mixed a mixed multitude. But everybody over 20 died in the wilderness, except for Joshua and Caleb. And we say Joshua, his name is Yahusha, and Caleb. But except for those two made it over. Aaron and Moses died in the wilderness. Because if you ask me, anybody that deserved to go into the promised land should have been Moses. Should have been Moses. One mistake. Because the higher up you go, because a lot of us want to go up. Oh man, I wish I could be like that. Oh man, we see people up at the top and all that. I want to be like that. That's my inspiration. I want to get to the top. I want to be like so and so. I want to be like, because the higher up you go, and the higher up you go, the less mistakes you can make. Because with Moses, it was just one. He says, "You didn't sanctify me before the people. I told you to speak to the rock, and you smoked the rock. You struck it." And he even tells them, and because of that, can't go in. Yeah, you can. I'm gonna take you up in the mountain, and you can look at all the land that flows with milk and honey. I'm gonna take you up on top of the mountain, but can't go in for that, because you did not sanctify me. You did not glorify me in front of all the people. That's why the more people that you have, the more people you speak to, and you have to go before all the people. There's another example in the book of Acts where you had a king that was a great orator, but he didn't give glory unto Abba, and so he allowed worms just to start coming out of his belly, just killed him. He just like that. It's like, man, So when we inspire, or we have aspirations to see some of these men and women that are at the top teaching and everything like that, and you aspire to be there, you just have to realize you can't make mistakes. Or if you do, very few, because you a lot of times they'll just crucify you. A lot of times you just get crucified. So anyway, you can't enter into his rest. And he says, because of their unbelief. Again, verse number 7, he limiteth a certain day, saying, in Daoud, today, after so long a time, as it is said, today, if ye will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. For if Yahusha had given them rest, then would he not afterward have spoken of another day. Now, right here, they're talking about Joshua, because his name was Yahusha. But if Joshua, when they came out of Egypt, if Joshua would have given them the rest, and what is he talking about? He's talking about when they entered into the promised land, because it was Joshua that led them into the promised land. But even in the promised land, when they got into the promised land, were they commanded to keep the Sabbath? Absolutely. Absolutely. They still, because he even goes on to say, there still is a rest for the people of Yahuwah. Even though they went into the land that flows with milk and honey, they still rested on the seventh day. And just like now, we make the kingdom. Let's say we make the kingdom, and that's our goal for all of us to make the kingdom. We make the kingdom in the millennial reign. You're still going to have to keep the Sabbath, and you're going to keep the other feasts. You still have to keep the Sabbath and keep the other feasts. So he's saying, if Joshua or Yahusha had given them rest, then would he not afterward have spoken of another day? If their rest was when they got in the land, then we wouldn't have to worry about the Sabbath, keeping the Sabbath. That's not what he was talking about, though. Because when we talk about, even in the millennial reign, we're going to have to keep the Sabbath. But our rest, that final resting place, that new heaven, new earth, and the city that they call Shamaim, the city of Shamaim, the city of which doesn't, nobody even going to see it or occupy it until after the 30 or the millennial reign. All these folks talking about being raptured, going up, ain't nobody going to get to that city until after the millennial reign. So what you going to do? You just going to be suspended in the air up there in the third heaven, just floating around in the air? Because Yahusha ain't going to be there. Yahusha will not be there. Yahusha's going to be down here. Yes. Well, they have rested because they're not doing what we're doing, where we still have to obey and everything. Their assignment is up, so they're in a place like um, that Lazarus was with Abraham. He was being in Abraham's bosom was the same place that Yahusha called paradise. When that thief talked to him, he says, "This day you'll be with me in paradise," and that's in Abraham's bosom, And because when they were on that cross, they all died, and those other two, they died before Yahusha, and so Yahusha's still living. So what did they do? Because the evening was coming, which is the beginning of the Shabbat. Even so, what did they do to Yahusha? Because he was still alive. They broke his legs. Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought it was. We'll have to just go ahead and get it, and we'll read it. But I thought it was Yahusha because, well, maybe it was because they yeah. Right. So it was the other two that they had to, because, and the reason why they broke the legs, the knees, is because when you're hung up like this and you start to come down, you can push yourself up, so that will give you your diaphragm here, allow yourself to breathe, and then the gravity will pull you down and you push yourself up like this. But if your knees are broken, then you can't push yourself up, and that would hasten the death. But with Yahusha, like you said, he's already gave up the ghost. Well, let's see. They stuck him, and out came blood and water, because that signifies death. The coagulation, the water and the blood. I hope I said that right. All right. For he that is entered into his rest, he also hath ceased from his own works, as Yahuwah did from his. So that's when we're talking about looking at the death. But let us labor, therefore, to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. Same example of unbelief. And when you look at they kept the Shabbat, and he says when they got into the land, with Joshua, they still kept the Shabbat. They kept the Shabbat up until the time of our Messiah. They kept the Shabbat after our Messiah. But now, you don't have to keep the Shabbat. And then, they want to take you here. Hebrews 13 and 8. Then they want to take you here. Yahushua Mashiach, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Because what they did back in the wilderness, and when they got to the land that flowed with milk and honey, to the time our Messiah got here, to after his death, resurrection, after the first century, all the way up to today, we're still keeping the Shabbat, because it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. So when somebody says, oh, we don't have to do it anymore, it changed and everything, you can take them here. How can you say that if yesterday, today, and forever, you say he never changes? It was a commandment. In fact, for the Gentiles, let's go to Isaiah 56. Isaiah 56, and let's start with verse number 1. Thus saith Yahuwah, keep ye judgment and do justice. Now, I know we got some big bad preachers out there today that's been preaching since they was 14, or however. I'm just throwing that out there. They can preach from the womb. It don't matter. But they've been preaching so long, and they become so good and so powerful in their preaching that their preaching transcends Abba Yahuwah. We're going to see here. We're going to read this. Because when a preacher tells you, you don't have to keep these commandments, what they're telling you is, I'm more powerful than Yahuwah. I'm above Yahuwah. You can't go to Yahusha and say Yahusha freed you when he kept it. He says, I'm the Adonai. He says, when he says I'm the, they say Lord, yeah, I know. But when he says I'm the Adonai, what he's saying is, I am the ruler of the Shabbat. Now, why would he have to rule over the Shabbat if there's no Shabbat? That doesn't make sense. I'm the ruler over something that don't exist anymore. I mean, you're belittling him. You're making him out. He says, I'm the ruler of the Shabbat. You know, man was not made for Shabbat, but Shabbat was made for man. And so we see that throughout. But then we got some powerful preachers today, leaders of organizations and all this and that, and they'll tell you, you don't have to keep the Shabbat. Let's see what Abba Yah says. Thus saith Yahuwah, keep ye judgment and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Blessed is the man, Baruch is the man that doeth this, and the Son of Man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Shabbat from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing any evil. This is Abba Yah speaking. This is Abba Yah. Am I going to believe Abba Yahuwah? Or am I going to believe a preacher that lives and going to die? If you're blessed, you might live 70, 80 years if you're blessed. So I'm going to believe you and not Abba Yahuwah, who created life and death. He don't die. He created it. All right. Verse number 3, neither let the son of the stranger, listen, neither let the son of the stranger that have joined himself to Yahuwah speak, saying, Yahuwah hath utterly, listen, separated me from his people. Don't let the son of the stranger say that. Neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. I'm a eunuch. I can't produce. I don't have no generations coming. I can't produce. That's a dry tree. For thus saith Yahuwah unto the eunuchs that do what? Keep my Sabbath. And choose, not only that, but and choose the things that please me, and listen, and take hold of my covenant. Because we're still under covenant. We are under a covenant. And within that covenant, the covenant has the 10 commandments on it. And we're still under that. If you want eternal life, you better start reading those 10 commandments. And that's why we read them, because it was the 10 commandments. He said that was the covenant he wrote with his finger. He wrote it himself. He didn't even trust Moses to write it. You ain't going to write this. I'm going to write it. And he wrote it in stone. But we got preachers today saying you don't have to do it. I mean, it does. And so you have all of these followers, and Yahusha summed it up. He summed it up. He said, leave them alone. They be blind, leading the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, they're all going into the ditch. So, leave them alone. Leave them alone. Because if you follow them, I don't care what his title is. He could be a superintendent. He could be in the UPC. He could be in the PAW. He could be in the PCAFI. He can be Southern Baptist. He can be Church of God in Christ. He can be AME. He can be. Even the Muslims, they keep the Sabbath. Most of them, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, they keep the Sabbath. But it's the ones who are in the Roman religion that has a hard time with the Sabbath. So, well, if they follow him, the blind lead the blind. So let's go on and see what he said. Even unto them, this is verse number 5, even unto them will I give in my house and within my walls a place and a name better than the sons and of the daughters. So this is a eunuch. I'm going to give you a name that's better than the sons and the daughters, mainly because some of the sons and the daughters didn't make it. They just didn't make it. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Also, the sons of the stranger that join themselves to Yahuwah to serve him and to love the name of Yahuwah, to be his servants, everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it and taketh hold of my. Those are the ones that the Bible calls saints. So you got some people who don't want to call themselves by any other name, but they want to call themselves a saint. But if you are a saint, then you're under his covenant. You cannot be a saint and not be in covenant. Not in Yahuwah's definition. Maybe in your definition, but if you feel like you're a saint and you're not in Yahuwah's covenant, under his covenant, just take the S off. Just take the S off. and then you're an ain't. Because you cannot be a saint and not be under covenant. All right? And he says, I don't want you to pollute my day, but take hold of my covenant. And even them will I bring to my holy mountain. Son of the strangers, the eunuch, his sons and the daughter, he's going to bring to his holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for Yasharel, for all people. For all people. It's going to be called the house of prayer for all people, because you're going to have strangers in there. You're going to have eunuchs in there. Because one thing about a eunuch, if you got your private parts cut off, you had to get out of the congregation. I don't want nobody up here in the congregation. You got no private parts. You know, you eunuch, you couldn't even get into the congregation. It doesn't mean you was going to die. It's just that you couldn't be in the congregation. All right, and we see that in, I think is it Deuteronomy 25? This is really not a part of my teaching, but let's see. Is it 25? No. Maybe it's 23, but that's not a part of my, Yeah, 23, I'm sorry, 20. He that is wounded in the stones or have his privy member cut off, this is unique, shall not enter into the congregation of Yahuwah. That's a eunuch, you know, so you couldn't enter in. And that's why he says, hey, you cut me off from your people, you know. But he says, now, if you keep my Shabbat from polluting it, and if you keep my covenant, he says there's going to be a place for you. And same thing with the son of a stranger. So we see that a lot of people didn't believe because of their, or a lot of people didn't enter in because of their unbelief. In Isaiah chapter 53, verse number 1, he says, who hath believed our report? Who have believed our report? Because it's going to come down to this. Do you believe it or not? Do you believe it? Because if I believe it, where are you going to find me? Like he says, don't be polluting myself. And he says, take hold of my covenant. So if I believe, you're going to find me where? Under his covenant. I'm going to be a part of his covenant. If I believe. Now, like I said before, you have some people who believe something to the point where even if the Bible says that that's not true, what they believe, you know what you believe, the Bible doesn't teach that. That's not true. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That's what I believe. Yeah, but what you believe doesn't go along with the book. Doesn't matter. That shows you how powerful belief is. And that's why he says, even his own people, y'all ain't getting in because of unbelief. Because Abba Yah knows how powerful belief is. You have to believe this with all your heart. I have no other doubt. My faith and what I believe is written in the book. I don't have no doubt. Because whatever I'm doing, whatever my lifestyle is, whatever I'm practicing, I can go to the book and read it. And that's what I believe. Well, you don't have to do that. Damien, Akoti, Tiffany, y'all don't have to do that. But wait a minute, brother. Wait a minute, I'm reading it right. Oh, it might say that in there, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Wait a minute. You mean it's an oracle, because an oracle is when Abba Yah speaks from the Shamaim. If he speaks from the Shamaim and gives you directions, that's an oracle. That's an oracle. Of course, he repeats because he repeats himself with generations. It goes from one generation to another, but the story doesn't change. The only thing changes is the people. But you have people today that has led his people away. And that's why he says in Kepha, he says, they were led away from their own steadfastness. Now, y'all was solid. You was rock solid in that. What happened? And they want to use Galatians, where he says, I think it's the 3rd chapter, he says, who hath bewitched you? You started off good, but who hath bewitched you? But Shaul was somebody that went into the synagogue on the Sabbath. So they try to use Shaul's letters, who was somebody who said in Philippians, he says, as touching the law, and they want to use him as saying, somebody bewitched you, because you ain't doing what Paul says, follow me as what? As I follow Christ. The Mashiach. 1 Corinthians, 14:1, something like that. He says, follow me as I follow the Mashiach. And Shaul was somebody who kept the law. He says, as touching the righteousness in the law, hey, y'all, I'm blameless. But we have men today, because they've been filled with something, to where they say, well, you got to follow Paul. And, yeah, but, because if somebody tells me you got to follow Paul, not Yahusha, I'm going to say, well, wait a minute. How can you follow Paul if you don't know where Yahusha's going? Yeah, and Shaul, he even says, when I'm with those who are without law, as without law, but not being without law under the Most High through the Mashiach, which means he still kept the law book. But there's one thing that Shaul did say. He said that the Gentiles, the adult male Gentiles, did not have to be circumcised. He said they did not have to be circumcised, because he went to Jerusalem on a council on that. And they says, you're teaching Yahudim that they don't have to keep the law. We read that the other day. But what he was doing was he was teaching them that the adult males don't have to get circumcised as a Gentile, the Gentiles. Because there were some Israelites telling them, you got to get circumcised and keep the law of Moses, which means, not only do you get circumcised, but keeping the law of Moses, all your males, children, if you have boys on the 8th day, they have to get circumcised, but they're Gentiles. So, and there's another, I think it's in Acts 18. I'd have to look it up again. I think it's Acts 18. But Shaul was with some Gentiles, and he told them, I have to go back to Jerusalem for the feast. But he didn't compel those Gentiles to go with him to keep the feast. But he knew within him, as a man, because it says in Deuteronomy 16, 3 times out of the year, all males, right? All males. So Shaul knew that, because he says, touching the law, I'm blameless. So at that time, and it's either the 18th or 20th chapter, somewhere, he says, I got to get back to Jerusalem for the feast. Now, I'm not compelling you as Gentiles to go, but I have to go, because the law says in Deuteronomy 16, all males have to be there for Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Those 3 feasts. Because the other feasts you can actually keep, even we got dedication coming up. Now, they were in Jerusalem, Yahusha was in Jerusalem, in Yahuchanan, 10 and was it 22? Yeah, Yochanan 10:22, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter, and Yahusha walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. So he was in the temple during the feast of dedication because he was in Jerusalem. So he did recognize dedication, and dedication. You'll see dedication in First Maccabees, the first 1, 2, 3, 4 chapters around there. You'll see dedication. And that's the feast that we're coming up with. Now, that was not a commanded feast, or I should say, that was not a covenant feast, because the covenant feast, which we are under covenant, is in Leviticus 23, and it just states them. Even the Shabbat is a covenant feast. Then you have all the other 7 feasts. You know what else is a covenant feast? The new moon. The new moon. In Psalms 81, verse number 3, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. For this is a statute for Yasharel, a law of the Eloah of Jacob. So that's a part, the new moon is a part of the covenant feast. So you had the 7 feasts, you had the Shabbat, which is a covenant feast, and you have the new moon, which is a covenant feast. And we just have one. And I'll make mention of the next new moon. And we'll just come together. We'll blow the shofar. We'll recognize it's the new moon, and it's a feast. And whenever you have feasts, don't bring your heavy burdens. Don't come amongst us, and all you got is a sad song. All you got is the only thing you can do is talk about all your troubles. Trouble in my way, trouble in my way. I got to cry sometime. No, don't bring that. Let's bring something else that will, cause us to be uplifted. Some conversations, some songs, and we'll just have a good time. We'll feast, recognize it's the new month, and we're counting our months, because we know we're coming up on the first month, and on the first, because we're in the 9th month, I think, and you come up on the first month, we're the 9th month, because next month, the next new moon, will be the beginning of the 10th month. Because if you ever get a little lost, just remember September is actually 7, October is 8, November is 9, December is 10. Even though in the Greco-Roman calendar they don't have it, but Sep means 7, and Ak means 8, and Nav means 9, and December is 10. So just remember that. So the next new moon is going to be the 10th month. And so we come up to the 12th month. After the 12th month, we go to the first month, which is a new year. And he says this is the beginning of months to you. This is the month of Abib. And so once we get to that new moon, then we start counting. And it's the 14th day of Abib is our Pesach. And then the 15th day to the 21st day is unleavened bread. And we just keep it like that. Yes. It's in March, yeah. 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 And ours is lunar. It goes off to the lunar, because he says that's how you set your months. And it should line up with the seasons too. So it and that's why a lot of times we might think the new moon is coming out. Oh, it should be a new moon tonight, but then no new moon. So everything has to shift and move. Because you have to follow the moon phases. And it also it should line up with the seasons, because at the time of Pesach was the barley harvest. So we should be, we start planting. Of course, we're on the Greco-Roman calendar. Greco-Roman calendar just confuses everything from our, historical ancestral calendar. So it is kind of confusing. But you have your barley. You plant your barley, and your barley usually you have a quick harvest with your barley, and that comes up in the Pesach, because at the Pesach was the barley harvest, and that's why you had unleavened bread for 7 days after the Pesach. You should have barley in there too. Okay, so Isaiah 53:1, he says, "Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of Yahuwah revealed?" So who has believed the report? Do you actually believe this? And so he does go down through this whole chapter talking about our Messiah. And it's important that you believe this. It's important that you believe it. We don't have time to go through all of this, but it's important that you believe it, because something is coming. Something is coming, and we have to realize, and we're just going to run forward real quick. Something is coming, and we have to realize this. Well, let me do this. Luke 1:32, and he says, "He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the sovereign Yahuwah shall give unto him the throne of his father Daud. He shall reign over the house of Jacob temporarily, seasonally, for millennium. He shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end." We have to understand that. We have to understand that when you read Isaiah 53 and all, he had to give his life. 53 talks about he has to give his life, because what was coming was something that will never end. It'll never end. And of his kingdom there shall be no end. Now there was a question in Yahuchanan 12, 32, 33. I'll start at 33. Then he said, signifying what death he should die. I guess I could read. And if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all unto me. Do you believe that? Do you believe that report? Because the arm of Yahuwah will be revealed. Because when you talk about the arm of Yahuwah in Isaiah 53, that's talking about his power. His power is going to be revealed. Now, a lot of people look at, especially our ancestors back in that day, they didn't think Yahusha was all that powerful. Because they said, if you're going to die, how could you? What? Because it said, well, we'll see what he says here, what they said here. But how are you going to be so powerful if you die? Because, see, their understanding of death now, once you go to the grave, because the Sadducees didn't believe in what? They didn't even believe in it. The Pharisees did, but the Sadducees didn't even believe in the resurrection. So a lot of times they think death is non-existent. Let's see. This he said, signifying what death he should die. The people answered him, "We have heard out of the law that Mashiach abideth forever." Now, and I know a lot of people think, well, he lives forever, but you have to understand under what context he's going to be living forever. Yes, everlasting life, but there's more to that we have to realize. The law taught it. You know, I can't throw away the law book, because the law taught that he's going to do what? Forever? Abide forever. And how sayest thou, the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Who is this Son of Man? So we have to look at what are they talking about here? When they said, we got in the law book, we heard out of the law book, the Mashiach abideth forever. Now, we didn't go through all of Isaiah 53. You can, but we don't have time for that. But let's go to what they were talking about for the sake of time. Isaiah 9:6. For unto, this is, because see, when they said out of the law, they're quoting or they're understanding Isaiah. Now, is Isaiah the law or is he a prophet? He's both. He's a prophet, but it's considered law. Because you have to understand who's speaking to these prophets. Who spoke to them? You know, so when anybody calls himself a prophet, who's speaking to you? And what are you writing? You can call yourself a prophet, because we got a lot of prophets. Yah's not speaking to them. Yah ain't speaking to them. You know, because if you say you are a prophet and you're against his law, oh, you're doomed. You're a false prophet. Because they even said, in the law it says, and they're quoting here, another place when they talk about it, he says, it's in our law. And he's quoting Psalms. We won't have time to look it up, but he's quoting Psalms 82. Because he says, our law says, ye are Elohim. Remember? And that is quoting Psalms 82. So what Moses wrote, the history of Yasharel, the prophets in the Tanakh, all of that is called what? Law. It's all called law. So when I read Isaiah, I'm reading law. I'm reading law. So every time we read about Moses, what he said about what's going to happen, what Isaiah says what's going to happen in Isaiah 11, Isaiah 14, what Jeremiah says is going to happen in 30 and 31 and 58 and 59, or 50 and 51, Isaiah 50, or Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, Jeremiah 30, Jeremiah 31, Jeremiah 23, Jeremiah 16, all of that. When he spoke that's law. When Isaiah 11, Isaiah 14, well, he's speaking of, and Isaiah 56, we read that, and this here, that's law. Yakazakar or Ezekiel, when he speaks in 20 and 22 and in 47, all of that is considered law. It's all considered law. So let's see. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Now, what's going to be forever? And the what? The government. The government shall be upon his shoulders. I don't have to worry about no constitution, because our government is on the shoulders of the Constitution. It's also resting on the shoulders of the Bill of Rights, because we always refer to those two documents. They said that those are the two sacred documents of this corporation. They call it a country. It's a corporation. And those are the shoulders that we're standing on, the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, right? That's what we stand on. And it said in the Bill of Rights that all men are, yeah, but they called my ancestors 3/5 of a man. So were they speaking to us in the Bill of Rights? No, they weren't. They were not. Because at the time they wrote the Bill of Rights, our ancestors were what? Slaves. So they didn't even look at them as humans. That's why they call them, well, they're 3/5 of. Actually, they didn't even call them 3/5 of a man until they came out of the emancipation, because they said, okay, we're done with slavery, but y'all only 3/5 of man. But anyway, the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution is the shoulders that we're on. We're not going to be under that no more. We're not going to be under that. The government is going to be upon his shoulders. So if you want to know what it's going to be like, you're going to have to look at the Messiah, because the government's going to be on his shoulders. And Messiah, it is said of him that the Torah, or our law book, was made flesh. So we're going to rest on the shoulders of Yahusha, who was the living word, the living Torah. And that's the shoulders we're going to be on. That's why he says, if I catch y'all eating any swine or abominable thing, if I catch you, because the government is going to be upon his shoulders. Everything that's written in the book, that is going to be the everlasting government, because it says of his reign. We read that in Luke, right? Of his reign is going to be forever. It says, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty Eloah, or Almighty is El Shaddai. It'll be called El Shaddai, the everlasting Abba, the Prince of Peace. All of that's going to be rested upon him. Of the increase, now he's going to tell you again, in case you didn't get it the first time, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. So that's why he says, when we understand this, when we go and read Ezekiel chapter 20, it says we got to be brought under the bond of the covenant. We got to be brought on the bond of the covenant. He says, with fury in my arm poured out will I. We just read that in Ezekiel chapter 20. I'm going to rule over you. Right? He says, I'm going to bring you into the bond of the covenant. So all of that is going to rest upon him. If you just happen to be somebody that represents the government of Yahusha, and you have to explain it because it's written on your heart and in your mind, you will be speaking what was given from Mount Sinai and what was given in Psalms, what was given in the prophets. You'll just know it because you'll have to teach it. If you don't believe in the law, you will not be a teacher in that government. Why would you? You don't even believe in it. You mean you're going to teach something you don't believe? I don't believe that. I don't believe you're going to teach something that you don't believe. So you'll have these people that's been so long in preaching that don't believe in the law, they won't have nothing to say in this government, because the government is going to be upon his shoulders, just like we have the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. How could I teach the Constitution? I don't even believe in the Constitution. How could I be a teacher of the Bill of Rights? I don't even believe in the Bill of Rights. I ain't going to teach that. I will teach what I believe, and that's his law. This is the law book, so I'm going to teach the law. So if you just happen to be somebody that's going to represent this government, and you happen to speak against his Sabbath, no, you ain't. Come here, son. Come here, son. Let me take you over. Come on, let's go over here. I want you to look at this dimension, and I want you to see all these folks that transgress against me, that says you don't have to keep the Shabbat. Come on now. Oh, that's going to happen because it says that in Isaiah 66. He said he's going to take you to see all those who trespass. He says the fire, he says, where the worm dieth not and the fire is not quenched. He's going to let you look at it. I think if you thought you were going to teach against Shabbat, I think you'd shut up. Because all you had to do was look. Oh, no, you better keep the Shabbat. You're going to say it. You're going to say it quick because nobody wants to go there. I mean, just like he opened up that hole in the Shamaim when Stephen, remember when Stephen was about to die, and it says he looked up to the Shamaim and he seen Yahusha standing on the right hand, which means he had all power in the Shamaim. He seen Yahusha standing, he had all power in the Shamaim. That's what he's seen. Just how he opened up the Shamaim so he could see that, that's what he's going to do. Hey, let me show you this dimension. He'll cut it out. Let me show you that dimension over there. See that? That's where y'all going to go if you transgress against me. And see, we'll have to teach that, and we'll have to teach other nations. And we'll have to teach other nations about Zechariah, because Zechariah's in the law book, Zechariah 14. Now, I'm over this nation, and I'm teaching this nation. And I'm telling y'all, hey, you got to keep the Sukkot. We got to keep Sukkot. Let me explain to you what the Sukkot is. You start and you try to teach that nation, keep the Sukkot. If anybody in that nation says, I ain't going to do that. You ain't going to keep no. Okay. Abba, send the plagues. Well, that's what it says. They're going to get the plagues that's written in Zechariah 14. And I'm pretty sure that if some people in the nation see that, pack up we go get your tent. We're going to the Sukkot. Once they see that, oh, I'm keeping Sukkot. Now, as an Israelite, we all should want to keep Sukkot because it represents Yahusha tabernacling with us. It represents him coming with us to dwell with us like he did in the wilderness when they came out of Egypt in the wilderness. Okay, any questions or comments? My time is up. Questions or comments out there? We thank all of you for coming, those who are in the house, and then those who are joining us online. We will be back. Most High willing. Now, let me say this. We do have a storm coming. And depending on who you listen to, I think it's supposed to start Shabbat evening, because the evening comes before the morning, right? Evening comes before the day. So it's supposed to start about midnight, 1, somewhere around there. But if we're, now one report I heard was 7 to 8 inches. Then I heard some other people were saying, well, it might be 2 or 3. Another said it could be up to a foot of snow. Now, we might not get any snow. I don't know. But if it, and I'll be in the Telegram app. So if something does, if we have to say, hey, it's a blizzard out. Now, y'all have to understand now, if you wake up Shabbat morning and you see a blizzard out there, stay tuned to Telegram because, we just might do something live on Telegram instead of, coming out in a blizzard. All right. Now, I did contact Ox Samuel Porter from Osceola, Iowa, and they're looking at the weather forecast, but if the snow's coming, they probably won't be here. So they'll say they're going to reschedule another Shabbat to be here with us, but they're also monitoring the storm to see if it'd be good if it don't snow, but we're liable to get hit with some snow, and they're saying the month of December might be a more traditional December, like we're used to when we grew up as kids, huh? Yeah, I mean, like when we grew up as kids, we used to get hit with a lot of snow. We had to tread through that snow. We had to walk to school. We didn't get no ride to school. We had all that snow. We was pounding through that snow to get to school. And we lived on Mound and Locust, and we had to walk all the way to Washington, where Coach T. Hazer was a teacher there before they tore the building down. And we had to walk all in the snow. In the snow. And now kids can't walk across the street. Folks can't walk across. It's like, what? We put in a hike to get to school, get home, whatever. But if the weather's really bad, so just stay tuned. And if the weather's really bad, we'll make some calls. But just if you wake up Shabbat morning and it looks like a blizzard outside, just look at the Telegram app. We might even just do something live on that. Okay. All right. So that's coming up this Shabbat. And we're going to keep everybody. We lost our brother, James Atwater, Deacon Atwater. We lost him. Most High Yah transitioned him. And so we're going to remember his life and celebrate the gift of life that was given unto him, for him to be a part of us, just to have his acquaintance and to meet him, and for him to be a part of our life. He's a man of faith, so we're going to give him, and I don't know when yet, so I do have a tentative date, but nothing's confirmed right now, so we'll wait until we get more. Huh? Oh, my monitor. All right. So with that, we're going to say shalom, 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 shalom.